Everyone, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. For those that are joining us on LinkedIn and Facebook, hello. Please put any comments in that you have in the chat boxes below. Say hi, tell me where you're listening from today. We have got a lot of detail to go through on this Lunch and Learn. So I hope you've got your pens handy, ready to take notes. So a lot of information to cover on retention and about how we do it. So let's get cracking. So let me first share my screen here. And let's get going. Here we go. So, retention machine. So, today we are going to look at customer retention. Let me just get all of this up on the screen. Now, retention's an interesting one because when you look at repeat business, you soon realize that the best part about it is that this is where the profit comes from. Okay, so you have to think back to the webinar that we did last week on marketing and buying customers. And what you realize is that the money you spend up front, the money that you use to buy that customer, actually uses up most of the profit on that first sale with someone. So therefore, what we've got to do is get them coming back as repeat purchases to buy and make more profit out of that particular person. So this is a very big part of what we're going to talk about today, about how we build that relationship so that it gives us that repeat business. And obviously, the longer that they do business with you and with us, the more chance you've got of getting referrals as well. So when it comes to referrals, you have to realize that they don't come right at the beginning when someone's brand new to you. They'll come as soon as someone gets more of a relationship with you over time, and you start offering them asking for referrals in some way. And this is where the lifetime value of that customer becomes real. Making sure that people are coming back to you and buying from you is a very big part of getting results and increasing that lifetime value. So getting the offers out there is one thing, but building that relationship so you get that repeat business is another, and we call this raving fans. It's something that I love. My background is hospitality, and it was one of the biggest aims that we had was to create those raving fans of our properties, of our organisation. What you have to think is it's one thing to send out marketing material and invite people back, but it's another thing that they, the customer, feel compelled to come back because they actually do enjoy your business. They enjoy that relationship with you. They've built a good, solid relationship. And this doesn't mean that it has to be like a one-to-one relationship. It can be done, through leverage, as we'll discover here today. So customers have, so when we look at customers' needs and wants, and I've popped that on the screen, it's really important. One of the things that often happens is a customer will have a want, and we all hear it, and it's a classic with children. I want this, I want that. But if you want to keep that customer long term, sometimes you have to sell them something other than what they believe they want. Sometimes you've got to look at their needs and sell to their needs, not just their want. And this will help with your goal to build those long-term relationships. And the way that usually works is that if we sell them what they want and we know what they want, but in most cases, what we need to sell to them is what they actually need. So you must discover what they want and sell them what they need. And for that, people are probably scratching their heads out there and kind of going, "Oh, Julie, what are you going on about today?" Well, let me give you an example. A friend of mine, he went to buy a new car. And he got told by that salesperson, "You're better off waiting for 6 months as there is a new model coming out. If you wait the 6 months, the car that you're wanting at this precise moment will fall into another category, and you'll be better off at getting it at that time." So he waited and bought it in 6 months' time. Had a much better relationship with that salesperson. A good customer relationship, a good long-term relationship. So sometimes if what I want you to think about is sometimes if you go in for that kill on that first sale, sometimes it doesn't help you long-term with what you're doing. And it comes down to this simple fact, because we're building a relationship, and the more you understand that your goal with every single customer is to build a relationship or buy a relationship, that buying relationship, selling relationship, the better off it will be. I know, I think we've all been or used that business that treat you as a one-off sale, but the aim must be to get that person from buying from you again and again, so that you have, and you both have that great long-term relationship. And this is where you really make your money. And how does it work? Well, let's look at the scales, and I've put the scales on the screen just right now. So if you say that every human being has an emotional bank account, maybe you just use this in your private life. You might use it in your private life as well. But you think about it. If you make emotional deposits into that bank account or emotional bank account, then what happens is that you build up relationship points, and this is the same with your customers. You've probably got some customers that who you who've dealt with you for 5 years, 10 years, or however long. And it's those long-term customers where you've made lots of deposits into their emotional bank accounts. If you mess up something, they're usually okay with it because you've got lots of deposits into that account. However, if you make that same mistake with someone who's brand new to you, that you've never had any deposits in their emotional bank account, they haven't built up any level of trust with you yet, then what's going to happen? They're not going to have that lots of deposits to counteract against that mistake. So this is why how you treat them as a brand new customer, what you do, and building up deposits in their emotional bank account is really important. Because if you start taking out a lot of withdrawals, then why would they come back? What's the benefit of it to them other than, hey, you've got a product and we have to buy it? But if someone else, another supplier, came along and built up their emotional bank account with them, then maybe you'll lose that customer. I'm sure you've seen this probably in your own life where you've bought, or purchased from somewhere. And you have to think, have you as a supplier really gone above and beyond, or is what you've done is just enough? What we are looking at here is about how to go above and beyond. What is it that you have to do to put emotional deposits into their bank account? What is it that you've done to put deposits in that emotional bank account with them? And it can be a simple thing like a handwritten note, a phone call, just to check that everything's fine. But it puts a deposit in that emotional bank account. It builds up a balance so that if and when you do make that mistake, it outweighs it. So keep that in mind, and how you're going to build deposits in that emotional bank account for your clients, your customers, the people that you do business with. We chatted about, last week on our Lunch and Learn about the customer base, and the reason for this was because one of the things that we looked at was our ideal customer. We want to deal with those A and B grade customers, and potentially even that C grade, because we can re-educate them to become A's and B's, But what do we do about those D grades, I hear you ask, Well, we just have to let them go to someone else. And the reason being that if you're going to build a system for repeat business, who do you want to build that system for? Do you want to build that system for the low grade customers? No. You want to build a system that attracts high grade customers to redo business with you. So don't just sit there and plan something that gets them or even every single customer to come back to you all the time. Always plan for that group of customers that are your best style of customer, and that is your A's and your B's. So think, how do they want to do business? And a lot of businesses try and be all things to all people, and they struggle. So go and pick some target audiences and go after them and develop a system for retention. This is about those A-grade customers. Develop an upfront marketing system. As I said, it's all about that A-grade customer. Now, what this gives us is a very simple part of the 80-20 rule where we sit down and say, who are our top 20%? So who are your top 20% of your customers? What are they? Who are they by name? Who are the people that pay our bills? In the majority of businesses, 80% of our income comes from 20% of those people. And it will be the same for you. It could be 80% of your profit come from them. but it might be 80% of the revenue as well. But knowing that and having the information allows us to plan our long-term growth strategies. Now, when we talk about customer retention, we also talk about customer satisfaction. And I guess the question I want to ask you is, if you have a satisfactory buying experience, how many people would you tell about it? Everyone? Or not many? Or no one? Well, if you're like me, you won't tell anybody. You won't say anything negative, but you're not going to go round and say, wow, it's the best thing ever. So what you need to do is look at what level of delight do you have around your buying experience. So think about when you buy things. How often do you sit down and say, this is fantastic? We've had a great buying experience here. And let's think about an example. Let's think about a restaurant. If people come in and they have a bad meal, they tell others. But if they go in and the meal service is okay, nothing bad, nothing good, they won't tell anybody at all. But if they go in, the meal's amazing, the service is great, and they have a really good time, guess what they do? They tell everybody. So in your business, are you aiming for satisfied customers, or are you aiming for delighted customers? So what are the things you could do in your business to delight your customers? It doesn't have to cost money. It doesn't have to be, free giveaways. Sometimes it just has to be the simple little things that can delight your customers time and time again. So Brad always uses an example of some clients that he has, or potential clients. They come and visit him, and they're going out for dinner. So when he has friends or even clients ask for a restaurant recommendation, he books them in. He makes sure that they've got the right time, and then he always sends dessert to them afterwards. Now, that doesn't cost Brad a lot of money. It's a simple thing to end the night on. But what's that client thinking? Wow, that's really nice. That's really great. Brad sent us dessert. Your aim is to leave people with a level of delight, not just satisfaction. You need to be at that stage where people leave excited about having done business with you. So I guess the question that we're all asking is, how do I make people excited about doing business with you? You're asking yourself, how can I make my customers excited about doing business with me? Just think of the fact that you're aiming to build a relationship. What would you do to make this person feel excited about what they've done, or feel passionate about what they've purchased from you, so they're happy to go and talk to others? And this brings us to the next point about great customer service in order to make sure that we have great retention. And that is that we're no longer going to be reactive. Most people think that a customer service department within an organization is more like a complaints department. But a customer service department should be about the good as well. And I want you to think about this. How many times do we hear from business owners that they never get complaints? But sometimes the fact that you're not getting complaints is not a good sign. You want to get complaints because if something does go wrong, you want to know about it. And as I said, getting complaints is not such a bad thing. It actually works out quite good, because if you act on them, flip them over, turn that dissatisfaction into delight, and sit down and say, we are proactive about our customer service. We should actually be getting letters, cards, gifts, things that just tell people how wonderful you are and how your business. So when you sit down and look at it, when was the last time you got a letter, a great letter from a customer? When was the last time you got one? Daily? Weekly? And these are some of the things you've got to look at. I mean, social media is a great way to build customer service, great customer service, because it allows you to keep in touch with people, but they'll complain to you on there. And if you fix it immediately, amazingly enough, you'll get positive stuff on there. So what I want you to think about is, Google reviews. We all get Google reviews out there. Sometimes we don't get the most positive ones, but if you act upon it straight away, it's showing. And it's showing to potential customers, and it's showing to that person that potentially has complained that you're proactive. Yeah. And as it says on the screen, don't wait until there's a problem. Take care of your customer. Don't wait until there's a problem to take care of your customers. Look after your customers all the time. An example that Brad always uses at this is that he was doing seminars in Australia a couple of years back. And there was a lady who had a bad experience in buying his books. So she wrote it on his Facebook page and he replied to her. And her other team replied, and someone called her and fixed the problem for her immediately. She then went back on Facebook and told the world how wonderful they are, that even when they made a mistake, everything got fixed and it was fixed really well. Now that is being proactive. The next thing I want to you to think about is innovation. And by this I mean no matter how good you get, you've always got to get better. Whatever service level you're giving someone in the past, if you give them that level of service 3 or 4 times, now they'll think that that is standard. So they'll always be sat there thinking, I wonder how they'll blow my mind this time. Your A-grade customers are going to demand innovation. Your A-grade customers are going to demand even better service every time you do business with them. Just because you're good in the past doesn't mean you'll get away with it with not being great in the future. And even better the time after that. And better the time after that. It must get better time after time. When you think about innovation, many people think about thinking outside the box. So here are 9 dots, and I want you to draw these dots on your page, okay, because you've all got pens out there, and think, how do I actually join these 4 straight lines without picking up my pen? So how do I join these with 4 straight lines without picking up my pen? And I'm just going to have a quick drink and you are going to try it. Has anybody got it yet? No? I'll give it to you. It's really simple. Straight in. You actually have to go outside the box. So stop thinking the way your industry has always thought. There's a great story, and I actually think Jim Rohn used to tell it first. And he used to tell the story about the woman that cut the ends off the roast. Every time she cooked a roast dinner, she cut the ends off it. And so they finally said to her, why do you cut the ends off the roast? And she said, well, my mother always used to do it. Okay. So we asked her mother, why do you do it? And she said, well, my mother always used to do it. So finally, when we asked her, we found out that the reason she used to do it was because she only had a small pan and she couldn't fit the whole thing in. Sometimes in our industry, we do the things we've always done and the way that we've always done it, because that's the way we've always done it. So we do the things the way that we do, because that's the way we've always done it. So you've got to sit back and look and say, what else can we do? And how else can we do this? Think different. Steal ideas from other industries. Look at other industries and how they're doing great customer service or great retention strategies, and then adapt them to your way of your business. Because when we keep on innovating, we keep getting our A-grade customers to not just be satisfied, but ecstatic and delighted. A great idea is that if you can, every 3rd or 4th time you do business with them, raise your game. And it doesn't take a rocket science to work out that they'll keep being excited about doing business with you. Don't just level up and stop. Keep innovating. Keep getting better, because customers will always expect you to get better. So this brings us to a point called Moments of Truth. There was a really good book that was written by the head of Scandinavian Air Services, SAS, and it was a book called Moments of Truth. And he talked about the airline industry as to having 19 moments of truth. These are moments where someone in the airline industry can either get it right or they can get it wrong. They're either going to be really happy or they're going to be really upset. He said there was lots of times when it didn't really matter. And these aren't moments of truth. These are the times where you're just dealing with the customer. But simple things, for example, like check-in, is a moment of truth. Another is a baggage collection. That's a moment of truth. It shows how good that company actually is. One of the best stories he told in his book was when someone opens up, the fold down tray where you put your meal. We all look at that tray. And if there's a stain, whether it's a coffee ring stain or food, then people think they don't care about this. If they're not good at taking care of a flip down tray, then how good are they at taking care of the tires on that plane? How bad or good are their engines? By looking at those moments of truth, it shows you how much they care about the customer. And if they care about their customer, they're going to care about their plane. And it's those little things that people look for that determine how good other things are. So what are your moments of truth? What are those in your business, and how many do you have? Or are you even aware of them? Now, let's think about this. Why do people leave? Why do people leave us, leave our business? Let's examine this, because moments of truth are a massive part of it. Just pop it in here. So most people think people leave because of price. But let's look at it. About 1% of your customers will die. 3% of them will move away. 5% will go because a friend has entered that industry, so they're going to go and buy from them. So in other words, they stole that customer away from you. They'll say, oh, my dad's just bought that. Yeah, I'll go and buy from dad. That kind of thing. 9% are outsold by them. That's about 14% that will move because of price or product. So in other words, a better product or a better price comes from somebody. So if we look at all of that, all added up, it's about 30-odd%. What we find that is 68% leave for a different reason. So what is the reason that 68% of people leave a company and go and buy from another company or person? They leave the person, leave a salesperson, and go and buy from that other person. And that is because statistics show in survey that people leave because of something called perceived indifference. Perceived indifference is basically that they don't really care. They think that you couldn't care less about them. Now, why do they feel like this? Mainly because you haven't kept in touch. You haven't followed up. You haven't said what you said you haven't done what you said you were going to do. You are perceived as being reactive. Even customer service doesn't work for perceived indifference for your customers to believe that you care. What sort of things are you going to have to do? You're going to have to communicate with them. You're going to have to keep in touch with them. You're actually going to have to follow up. How does perceived indifference come about? And I'm sure you've got examples in your own life where it's happened to you, where you've had a company that you've bought from, and at a period of time before you realise they actually couldn't care less about you. They've spent a massive time with you up front when you're buying, but as soon as you've purchased, they're like, got them, leave them alone, they'll be fine. And that's what perceived indifference is all about. So if you look at your customer base and say, okay, how many of them actually believe that we care? How many of them actually believe that we care about keeping them as a customer? How many of them know? How many have we shown? Because what you've got to do, what have you done to show your customers that we want them to stay? That's actually got them convinced that we are a great company and that they should stay with us. See, I believe in customer service, and in customer service, there's two main aspects to it. Be consistent in what you do and be easy to buy from. So if you look at it worldwide, up to a few years back, McDonald's was always at the top of the customer service list, and you sit there and go, really? McDonald's, why? Because they're consistent in what they deliver, and it's easy to buy them, buy from them. So you have to look at it now, and I think the top is potentially like Apple. Apple stores are massively high on customer service, and you sit down, you look at it and you say, what do they really do? They're massive on customer service. They have staff there to be able to buy from. People actually go in there because they're able to deal with someone, so it's fairly consistent. It's easy, very easy to buy stuff. I'm sure you've all experienced this because you've run your credit card through their iPhones and you can make a transaction, and they do the follow-up service. But it's only once you get those two things in place that you actually want to go to step 3, and that's the wow factor. Get numbers 1 and 2 right first, so they think that, so just think you all have an accountant out there, and he would send football tickets, and he'd send, take you to a charity dinner and all that wonderful thing. The wow factor is amazing, but he just keeps on messing up with the accountants. So he's, with accounting, with your accounts. So he isn't consistent in delivering his product and service. So what he's saying is the actual accounting is not important. Going to the football is more important. So to keep that in mind, because you have to get number 1 and number 2 right first before you do the wow factor. If you just got the wow factor and no consistency or ease to buy, then why would people buy from you? It's not about making it, it's about making it easy for people to buy. Be consistent and deliver a good quality of service or product to the customer time and time again. And by doing those things, you'll be way ahead of the majority of the audience, and then worry about the wow factor, the critical non-essentials. So the next thing we're going to talk about is something that I talk about all the time, and that is how to get the customers to climb that ladder of loyalty. How do we get them to be more loyal with us? And this is when marketing really comes into it. Relationship building is part of it, but marketing is a major fundamental in building this ladder. So, but first, what we have to understand is, what does the ladder look like? There it is. There's a ladder. So at the bottom of the ladder is people who are our suspects. So what is the definition of a suspect? A suspect is someone that if they fit into your target market. So what I believe is, once you've decided on your target market, or your target markets, the 20 of them, then you actually defined who your suspects are. So you might have a database of 1,000 people that are a particular type of target audience. So a suspect is someone that fits into your target market. So next, a suspect becomes a prospect. So what does that mean? A prospect, it means that the person takes action and you collect their details. So they've got to do something like, they've got to respond to advertisement, they've got to reply to an email, they've got to click on a link on your website and send you their details. They've got to do something. They could call your business and give you the name and address and phone number and stuff. These are the things that we want our suspects to do to move them up that ladder of loyalty and create actual prospects. A lot of businesses try and go straight to the sale from their advertising. Sometimes you're better off to actually not go straight to that sale, but to get someone to actually just contact you, give you the details, and let us know that they're in the market for right now, what they're in the market for right now. In other words, just contact us and take some form of action so that we know to follow up with you. If you go straight from the sale from marketing each time, sometimes you miss out on a lot of people. What you have to remember is that even though some of them won't and don't buy this time round, we've got their names and addresses to be able to go back and follow up. The more people you get to take action and collect their details, obviously the more you've got one more step up the ladder. What's the next one? You've got suspect, prospect, and then you've got a shopper. So what does that mean? Well, a definition of a shopper for me, is somebody that buys something for you, just one thing, and you can confirm their details. Remember, you should always be aiming for more, and that is when they become a customer. So the shopper is one point of this exciting point, but the really exciting point for me, in particular, is not when they're a shopper, it's when they move up that next step of the ladder. A shopper then becomes an actual customer. Now, what's the difference between a shopper and a customer? And I'm sure you've probably guessed it. It's really simple. Someone is a customer if they buy a second time. Because here's the stats, and the stats show that a person who buys from you twice is 10 times more likely to come back again than someone who's only bought once. So I've only been to buy from you one time. There's a chance I'll come back again. Now, if I've bought from you twice, that chance of me coming back is now tenfold. So how much work do we want to put in to make someone come back and make that second purchase? As an example, if someone's been in that restaurant once, what effort do we go to get them in a second time? You want to go to a massive effort to get them in the second time, because now they've built up a bit of a habit. They will also have built up a bit of a relationship. Now they're an actual customer. They feel like they belong. They know where the bathroom is already. They know where to look for things. They know what's on the menu. They might even have a favourite drink or a favourite thing on the menu. This is where the second time purchase builds such a great level of relationship, as well as a higher level of loyalty from that customer. And so your energy and effort needs to go into getting that second sale. What marketing have you done? Where is the thank you note for the first time customer? Where's the offer for them to come back and buy that second time? What is it that you can do to create that second time purchase? If you went to your database right now, how many people do you have in your database that purchased once and never came back again? What offer are you willing to make to those people? What offer are you willing to make to those people to get them to come back and make that second purchase? How much energy and effort are you willing to put into that one to get them a second time? Especially considering that this gives you 10 times more chance of getting them back again. Personally, I would put that energy and effort in looking at what is it going to take to get that customer back, even if you have to make a great deal to get them back, to build that second purchase and get excited about that second purchase. This is where you have to put that energy, effort, time to make sure that that's what's going to happen. So a suspect becomes a prospect in taking some form of action, and you're collecting the details. The prospect becomes a shopper by making a single transaction. The shopper then becomes a customer by coming back and making a second transaction. Then what we need to do is move our customers into that point where they become a member. Now, this doesn't have to be a membership program, but it's the name we give to this level of loyalty, level of the ladder, is where they become a member in their mind. Now, I believe you should put together a members kit for your customers who have purchased from you twice. It's almost like, a VIP card or a VIP program of some sort, because what we want people to do at this point in time, we want to make them feel like they belong. So sit down and think, what sort of thing could we put into or go into our members kit? Start by thinking, what kind of things have you had in members kits? What member kits have you received? You might have received a members card. You'd receive a package which tells you everything that customer does. That company even does. You might receive introductions to all the staff in the company. You might receive all the different things that will make you feel like a member. Could be a sticker, could be a key ring, could be a locker at the gym. Sometimes you also have to think people often pay to become a member. You don't have to give it for free. Brad always uses an example at this point of a coffee shop. That he coached an owner of a coffee shop. They used to have the big coffee mugs that he would print people's names on it, and their coffee mug would be washed after they finished and hung back on the wall. So everybody who was a member of that coffee shop would have a bigger coffee mug. They would have a coffee mug wall, and that coffee mug would have their name on it. So therefore, once they came in, they'd get their mug down, they'd have their coffee in it, it would get washed up, and then it would be hung back up on the wall in their slot, on their spot on the wall. So to become a member of that coffee shop, you either bought your membership or you were giving it to you because you ate there so many times or you had lots of coffee there. So can you make people feel like they belong to your business? And we have clients that say, oh, I don't know how to create a membership-based program. Well, every business can create some form of membership-based program. Every business can create something that gives that customer a feeling of belonging. And that's what it's all about. So here we go again. A suspect becomes a prospect. A prospect turns into a shopper. A shopper becomes a customer. Once that customer feel like they belong, they've become members. Feels like they're a member. Now some of your members will move up this level to the next level, and this is where we call them an advocate. And we've got to the point where we're really enjoying having them as a customer, and they really enjoy being customers of our business. They like us, we like them. They're spending good money with us. We're doing good service for them. They buy off us fairly regularly, and they keep coming back. But on top of that, they tell everyone about you. These are the people that make your job worthwhile because they're out there telling people about you. They'll post stuff on Twitter, on Facebook. They'll mention you to their friends. They'll put photos of being out there. They'll check in on social media. They'll pin photos on their Pinterest. Social media is just one part of it. You see, because when they go to a barbecue, they'll have your t-shirt on. One of the best brands for doing this, for having advocates, is Harley Davidson. How many brands can boast that their customers will tattoo their logo on themselves? There's not many brands out there where that's actually going to happen. Let's look at Apple. Apple is one of the best at building relationships with their customers. So customers become advocates for them. If you sit down and start to examine what it is that you can do that actually creates an advocate, because it's one thing to actually give great service and be proactive and think outside the box and do all that lovely stuff. But it's a whole other thing to build a level of relationship where a customer becomes an advocate. So what level of relationship do you need with this person between the company and them before they become an advocate? Do you think they'll become an advocate after their first purchase? No. It takes time to build advocates. It takes several transactions. It takes trust. It takes all of these things. It takes personal rapport building with either one or two or three, and however many actual employees in that company. That's how we build to that level of an advocate. And one of the great things I've found that in building advocate is when you get real results for them as a customer. Real results could be that if you're a dentist and you're doing a great job on their teeth and their friends tell them how wonderful they look and that's fantastic. If you're a hairdresser, that sort of thing. So if you sit down and look at your business, what does real results look like in your particular scenario? Now, ultimately, suspects turn into prospects, prospects to shopper, shopper to customer, customer to member, member to advocate. Now, they're actually there. They're actively helping us grow our business. They're telling people about us. Ultimately, though, we want to create what I call a raving fan. So what do I mean by a raving fan? You're an advocate, or tell people about you if they're asked to, or if they're in a situation where it comes up. That's what an advocate really is. But a raving fan is entirely different. The raving fan uses the word love about your business. That's what it's really all about, creating that level of raving fan. A raving fan is all about the fact that they do your selling for you. This qualifies them as a raving fan. These people sell others or you. I know within Action Coach, we often have our existing customers, we interview them about their success. What happened? Where did that success come from? And guess what? All of a sudden, they very much become an advocate and then a raving fan about us. If we interview them and do a video of them telling the world of how great our business is, then all of a sudden we've created raving fans. And again, they do the selling for us. You know, we've had our clients turn up at seminars and tell people that aren't our clients yet, you know, you should be a coaching client. Why aren't you with Action Coach? What are you doing? Where are you going to go? You know, and this is raving fan mentality. And this is ultimately what you want to get to in your business. So if you sit down and think about your business, how are you going to get raving fans? Well, I believe people move to raving fans if you get them a position and some rewards for it. So you have to reward them for doing this. You have to have some referral offer. You know, it doesn't have to be commission. It needs to be sort of a gift or something that I get by becoming a raving fan of you. And the other one is position, you know, and a classic example of this, think of BNI at this point for those of us that have heard about it. So if you give someone the position of president in your chapter, all of a sudden that person becomes a raving fan, because here you are recruiting other people for someone else's business. By giving somebody a position, a title, some form of strategy whereby they become a partner or an alliance or a director of this or something like that of nature. And it doesn't have to be spectacular, you know. Another example is someone who opened a restaurant. Instead of just having one partner, he had many small partners. So they don't need to invest a great deal of money, but all of a sudden all those investors have been given a position. They get a business card with their name on it, and then all of a sudden you've got a team of about 100 people or however many who are raving fans of that restaurant before it even opens. So they're out there building the restaurant before it opens. You know, what position did he give people? What are the rewards? They may get a slightly larger profit, but what they need to do is start to examine how people actually get real results in building raving fans. Give them permission, a position, give them rewards, and this is how, you know, you get those raving fans. You know, when FedEx first started, it had a policy. One of their founding vice presidents of Federal Express, I'll put my teeth right in, you know, Mike Bash, and he said it was a very simple line. He said to get people, he wanted to get customers to stay and pay. We want them to stay longer. We want them to say good things about us. We want them to pay the bills. And he said to do that, he wanted them to do that rather than walk, squawk, and balk costs. It was a much more profitable way. So let's think about what it's worth to get someone to stay, pay, and save versus how much it costs you if somebody walks away and squawks about you, tells negative things, and is never paying their bills. They're not coming back and buying from you again. What is it worth to a business to be able to do that? How much energy and effort should we put into doing this? Now, what if every single customer on your customer base, you know, how could we get them to stay for one more transaction, one more month, one more year, whatever it might be in your business on how you measure it? What would it be worth to your business to get them to stay now? On top of that, sit down and say, what would it be worth to your business if they could refer someone else to you? If you've got referrals from every single one of them, how much is that actually going to be worth to your business? And this is where a lot of people really struggle, because our customers sit there and we're not sure we'll get referrals. And the fact is, you will get referrals. You need to think what it's worth to them to build the referrals into that relationship. What's it worth to ask? You know, and this is, to me, is a very big part of how we actually grow a business. Because if we don't get them to stay, you know, guess what? You know, stay, say, and pay. Guess what? They're going to walk, stalk, and balk. So what we've got to get them moving is down that positive road. Otherwise, they'll go down that negative road, and we won't be able to add value, and we'll end up spending a lot of money. You know, we don't have to add value by doing things that cost us a fortune. Remember this, people pay a lot of money for service, for extra service. It doesn't have to cost a lot for extra service. Simple little things that give you great service. It's those little things that actually move the business to the next phase where the customer's relationship, that next level. The service level that you give is a very powerful part of making sure that people do stay. That people do stay, say, and pay. What level of service would you grade your service at the moment? If you were to compare it with some of the best places in the world, how would you upgrade your service levels to suit them? And it doesn't have to cost a lot. And this is the most important thing that people need to realize. You can add value without adding cost by doing great service retention. We mentioned a lot of this last week on our Lunch and Learn. Okay. But I just wanted to remind you of a few things. What we're looking to do with all this customer loyalty and all this building of customer service and loyalty is actually to increase the number of transactions. We're not going to do it just for the sake of doing it, okay? We're going to do it because we want great result. The secondary we're doing it for is we want increased average spend. What we're looking to do is boost those numbers by doing these things. It's not just done for the sake of doing it. We're not just doing good customer service to win an award for good customer service. We're doing it because it will bring in more money, more revenue, more average sales to the business. We don't design strategies just for the sake of doing it. Design strategies that are actually going to get results for you, that are actually going to bring in more sales, more repeat transactions for your customers. Next two things. What's the current lifetime value and what is their potential lifetime value? You want to set a goal in mind. What is the potential lifetime value of this customer? People often say it's their entire lifetime. Well, let's be realistic. People don't live in an area that long. So maybe look at what is the goal or approximate goal you want that potential lifetime value. A major part of getting great retention in your database, you need to invest in a good quality database. Look at what is a great database for your style of business, and the more info you have on the customer, the better. And social media, I've already mentioned today, but it's it's important for us to really sit down and look at how much are we going to keep in touch with our existing customers. What are we going to do to build relationships? It's great to have a blog and it's great to have a newsletter, e-newsletter, but social media today allows us to do this in an entirely new way. We've really got to invest our time, energy, and effort into doing this, as well as the money in a lot of cases. So thank you for joining me today. What I want you to remember is that retention means repeat business, and repeat business means so what I want you to remember today, sorry, just taking my slides off, is that retention means repeat business, and repeat business equals better profitability and more referrals. So I'll say that again. Remember, retention means repeat business for you equals better profitability and more referrals. So if you do have any questions for me, then please do reach out. Drop messages on the chat boxes below, the comment boxes. Always happy to answer them. So that's me, Julie Cameron, a business growth specialist with Action Coach Solihull. And today we have been talking about customer retention. Join me next week when we'll be delivering another amazing Lunch and Learn. Thank you.